was somebody who's regarded as possibly having more economic reform. But what I see here is what's going on with the Castros is their first mandate is to maintain power, to shore up power. And people like Machado, Casas, Esteban Lasso, and the resurrection of a man named Ramiro Valdez, who once was very powerful, and he's been given a whole new portfolio to control the internet. Can you get a better gig than that? I mean, he's very, very influential portfolio. They have been brought back. So you have a lot of people in Miami and Washington saying, see, you think there's an opening, but in fact, they're bringing back the dinosaurs. They're bringing back their own historicos. But I see it as a double thing. They're shoring up their power base, like all politicians do, but they're also opening it up. And I think these changes are hugely significant in Cuba. You are now allowed to have cell phones. If you have a cell phone, you can then go on the internet. And I am sorry, when that genie is out of the bottle, you do not get to put that one back, no matter what Ramiro Valdez may get up. And I know Ramiro Valdez famously said that the internet is the wild cult of the technologies that has to be controlled. I do not think that in the next couple of years, yes, you can close down this site or that site. I do not believe in Cuba, in which one of the great passions is talking and conversation and argument is going to be control. I do not think that will go back in the bottle. They are moving towards home ownership. Excuse me, but the last time I heard, home ownership is the cornerstone of Western economic democracies. You own your home, that is the American dream, right? Well, they are moving towards that. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. There's still this bizarre, complicated permuta system that, you know, takes Talmudic scholars to grapple. But it is moving towards a change there. So in other words, what I see is alternating current. Yes, they're shoring up their power base, but there's openings that I think are extraordinary. Now, of course, the response in Washington from George W. Bush, who in his, you know, he's never out of character. He immediately called Raul Castro dictator light. You know, he's nothing if not diplomatic. And Tom Casey, the State Department, said something like, "How can we miss you if you never go away?" So they have, and then the mantra out of Washington is all these changes are cosmetic. I do not believe they are cosmetic. I also think they come from a certain confidence in Cuba. And I want to mention something that I think two important issues that do not get discussed. And if it's too insightful, whatever. Cuba has discovered oil, okay? Cuba has discovered oil. I'm not sure, nobody knows when and how much. But right now, it's looking very, very good. They have discovered oil in the North Florida Straits. It has been discovered by Repsol. We know it's for real because the Norwegians, your neighbor, are over there doing the deep sea drilling, and we know the Norwegians don't do anything unless they think it's a sure thing. In terms of deep sea drilling, I don't know about anything else. And we have the Malaysians, the Chinese, etc. So that site is looking very good. I'm on the Brookings Cuba Task Force, and one of our guys there on the force is Jorge Piñon, who was head of BP Latin America. And he's certainly no fan of the Castro family, and he is very wowed by the amount of oil. There's another site called the Eastern Gap, and it's going to be split between Venezuela, Mexico, and Cuba. That's looking very good, and their old Cienfuegos site is producing. There is a reason that Lula from Brazil showed up in Cuba to visit Fidel, and I do not believe it was a condolence call. There's a reason that he came and gave him $1 billion in credit, and it is not, again, out of the goodness of his heart. The Brazilians want to maneuver against the Venezuelans and Chavez. They have their eye on that oil, one which they've also signed various leases on. The Brazilians, Petrobras has a lot of leases in the Florida Straits, but they also have their eye. Remember the Cuban sugar industry? You know, all those visions of the old machinery falling apart? The the Brazilians want the sugar for ethanol. So what I'm trying to say here, through the jet lag, is that this island that we used to, in all the images that Raphael talked about, and many people thought about as this country renowned for rum, sex, sin, and sugar, is, I think, in the next 5 years going to be an oil player. When someone like Jorge Piñón tells me that they may not only become energy sufficient, but an energy producer, this is going to change everything. Let me be frank about it. It's over. Because the oil companies have been in Washington, all the lobbyists from all the oil companies, I've spoken to 2, they are pounding on the doors, and they are saying, we cannot allow Cuba to hit oil and it all to go to China. And remember, the other thing is that it's all very fortuitous. Fidel Castro's had more luck than, I don't know, than a Chinese bookie. I don't understand how he got so lucky. Just as he's about to pass on, he gets Hugo Chavez, who's basically, you know, Juan Perón with oil. And then they actually discover it. I mean, usable oil. So I'm going to, and the last thing I wanted to bring up is the church. The church is back. The Catholic Church is coming back to Cuba. In fact, the Castros are back in church. I have friends who are going to church now with Agustina and Ramon, Mongo, some of the Castro, some of Fidel and Raul's siblings are actually going to church publicly. It's very interesting to me that Raul's first business meeting, as soon as he's officially takes power, is with the Pope's emissary. And what I understand is that the Pope will be visiting there in early 2009. The Knights of Columbus, the right hand of the church, are going back, I think, in the next month. So we're seeing a complete revitalization. There's even a wonderful story all over Miami that Padre Amado Llorente, who was Fidel's teacher at Belen, he's already been to Cuba to give last rites. Actually, I've heard he's done it twice, so it's probably completely untrue. But I just say we're in a whole different world with Cuban politics because of one, oil, the return of the church, and what I see Raul, I think Raul is going to, not just this China, he's moving towards economic reform because one, he's got some amazing trading partners now with Brazil, Venezuela, and I think there's 7 countries that have lined up to work on oil exploration in Gulf. I'll leave it there, and I think we're out of time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We have come to the end of this extremely interesting seminar, and as we all have grasped, the central word of it is dialogue, and in its way, the Waltic Conference, with its motto,